Snoopy Talks.
So here we are with Rianne Norbart in Radio Internacional in Castelo de Vide. Can you talk us about your interest in art and how everything started?
Yeah, to give you a sort of perspective, I will start at the very beginning. I was born in a little village in Holland, a Catholic village. So my primary education was with the nuns, and my secondary school education was with the monks. But there was a French teacher who saw something in me. I was a very shy girl, and he said, "Okay, I'll bring you something that you might love." And he brought me an art book, and I read that art book. I saw that art book. I read it over and over again, and I thought, I don't know what it is, but I know that this is it. And that's why I have really the convincing theory that books and especially art books are very, very important for the education of young people, because that book really transformed my life. By reading that book, I knew that this is what I would be doing later in life. I didn't know how or why or with what, but I was convinced that it was the way. And when I was 18, I decided to do an art education. My parents said, "No, better not. Why not being a doctor or a lawyer? You can be everything you want to be." But I was very convinced that it had to be art. So I did the Academy of Art and the art university later on, art history. And my first job was as an art professor at a university in Holland. And I had my own art magazine, and I wrote articles about exhibitions just because I liked to do that. And I wrote an article, a review on an exhibition at Van Gogh Museum in Amsterdam about Toulouse-Lautrec. And when that was published, Van Gogh Museum called me out of the blue, and they wanted me to come and work for them. And Van Gogh Museum in those days, I'm talking 1989 now, it was not a big organization. It had 7 people staff, didn't have much money, not so many visitors. But they were preparing a big exhibition in 1990, a retrospective exhibition of Vincent van Gogh. And they were looking for someone who could handle a big part of the work, from communications, publications, education, the media, the publicity, all those things. And well, I said no because I thought I cannot do that. But we had several conversations, and they tried to convince me that it was really a very good choice for me to come and work with them. And I decided to jump into the deep. My first press conference in 1990 was with 1,000 journalists. So in no time, I had the best media database in the world, and actually that saved my profession there, because I was very unexperienced, but I had something that was very valuable, and all the colleagues from the Pushkin and Hermitage in Russia to the Metropolitan in New York were jealous of my database, and they all wanted to have it, and they negotiated with me, giving me other things. But I always kept my media database a secret till the end. I worked there for 21 years. And I saw Van Gogh Museum changing from a very, very small organization to an enormous organization with 1.5 million visitors a year, and with as professional as you can dream of as a museum specialist. So I was there at that level. I was an all round museum specialist, and I didn't know how to continue with myself and with my job. I thought, okay, where do I go? I'm too young to stay at the Van Gogh Museum forever, but it was such a wonderful place to work for. It was international. It had a great reputation and beautiful art, of course. So I thought, in Holland, there's not a place like this. So I was looking abroad for some opportunities, and actually within no time I had three offers: one in New York, one in Paris, and one in Abu Dhabi. I didn't know anything about Abu Dhabi, but I consulted my husband and our 11-year-old daughter, and they said, "Well, why not? Let's go there." And the headhunter told me, "You will love it. It's a wonderful place. You can everything all the skills and all the things that you learned in your career are very suitable for us. We are preparing a Louvre Abu Dhabi and a Guggenheim Abu Dhabi, so your expertise is very welcome." So we decided to go there. It was 2010 when I made a decision. 2011 we moved as a family, and I worked there till 1.5 years ago with lots of pleasure, I must say. But something happened in this period. So I'm talking about 2021. We were in the middle of COVID. I heard that Leone Holzhaus, the painter, was not feeling very well. We visited her, and we could see that she was not in a very good state, but we had good hope that she could restore and be her old self and being the wonderful artist that she was. But that was in vain. In February 22, I got a phone call that the situation was getting worse, and Leon wanted to see me, wanted to speak to me. So I flew to Portugal to see her here, and I could see that she was really at the end of her life, and she was struggling. And we had a conversation, and she wanted me to keep her legacy alive, and she really wanted me to make a promise that I would take good care of her work, of her digital archive, and would make exhibitions of her work, and would take very good care of everything that she left behind. But she had no children. And of course, if one of your best friends is dying and has this request, and then you make a promise, and then you know that you have to keep that promise. So actually, a few days after I made this promise, she died, and I was here, and I was, at the same time, I could bury here in Portuguese ground. It was all very, very intense and very emotional. And I made that promise. So I went back to Abu Dhabi because, of course, I was in the middle of my very busy job. But something changed, and I realized that I really had to make a decision. And if I really wanted to fulfill her desire to keep her legacy alive, I couldn't wait too long. So together with my husband, our daughter was already working somewhere else. So it was just the two of us making this decision, and we decided to move to the neighborhood of Marvaux. We ended up in Castelo de Vide because there was a house available. And yes, and there we were 1.5 year ago, and I started the Associação Arte Alentejo to better facilitate the mission of what I thought was important for Leone's legacy. And yes, and then I have to go back to make you understand where I met Leone in this whole story. And so I will do that later.
Okay, that was my next question.
Yeah.
Where
How,
where
and
did
where,
you met
Leone?
Leon for the first time, and the way you somehow got friends?
Yeah, that's why I was giving you sort of a short history of my life. When when I just started at the Van Gogh Museum, I I had a short holiday in Portugal, and I was really intrigued by this country. There was something so special that I immediately felt that this was the place where I would once live. And also, it's about 30 years ago that I bought a little house in the Algarve, and Leone was my neighbor.
Hmm.
And I saw her painting, so I went to her, and I could see the concentration, and I could see what she was making, and I thought, "Whoa, this is really a good painter." And she asked me where I came from and what I was doing there, and what was my purpose. And when she heard that I was an art specialist, she was interested, and we started talking about her work, and we became friends instantly, and stayed friends for 30 years. And Leone, she loved the Algarve, but there was something missing. So she was living we were both living at a really beautiful spot near Tavira. It's a little fisherman's village. And we were living inside the country. So let's say 10 kilometers above Tavira, in a place called Bodega, which is like a handful of houses at the river that was finding its way to the sea, and it was fantastic there. But Leone felt that although she loved the light of the Algarve, she felt that there was something else waiting for her, something better. She was missing the seasons. She loved autumn, for example, and she loved the primavera, the how do you say that in English? Or sometimes I'm losing words. The primavera, the no primavera, when the flowers start blooming, blossoming.
Oh, spring.
Springtime. Yes, thank you. Yes, and my thinking goes from Dutch to English to sometimes to Portuguese, and then I lose control of all the words that are in my inner archive. So yes, spring. She loved spring and she loved autumn, and it had to do with the colors, of course. When wham, all those fields here change into yellow in spring, and in autumn when the castagna trees turn orange and red and are on fire. And yeah, she was completely intrigued by all that. So after a year, so 29 years ago, she said goodbye to the Algarve, and she left us behind there actually, but she was calling me all the time and saying, "Well, oh, it's so beautiful and it's so lovely, and you have to come here. You don't know what you miss." And so we went there. We picked up our 1-year-old baby, and we went to Capsudus, where Leone had her house, her first house here in the environment. And we were sold. And we thought, okay, this is it. We are going to move, and we're going to search for a little house in near Capsudus, where Leone stayed. And that little place became Fonte Salgueiro de Cima, where we bought a little farm with some land. And we sold the house in the Algarve and followed Leone in her footsteps. And even though I was working at Van Gogh Museum, I was working in Abu Dhabi every year, sometimes 2 times a year, we would come back here and visit her and be with her and see what a new development in her work was. And we would always buy paintings. So we have an enormous collection of Leone Holzhaus paintings. And yeah, till the day that that someone made the call that I had to come because she was dying. And that made us decide that we had to come and live here and fulfill the promise that I made.
Okay, that's a very interesting story. And do you believe that's connected with your last name having heart, that you have that connection with art and that promise that made you come here and live here? It's a big decision coming from Abu Dhabi to Castelo de
Yeah,
Vide.
yeah. But it's not as big as you would think because there are many similarities. Because there are a lot of Arabic words, for example, here in the language, and the food reminds us, of course, not the pork meat, but the food, the community sense, the welcoming arms, the warmth of the people. Yes, we, as much as we felt at home and at ease in Abu Dhabi, the same we feel here. I think it's always about humans, about people. And the people here are so warm-hearted, and it's the same as what we experienced in Abu Dhabi.
Oh, that's nice to hear it. So, your new association and your new shop museum, it's the way you are able to keep your promise.
Yeah,
That's right.
yeah. So I was thinking about it. So I had her full collection of paintings. I have about 250 originals next to the collection that I already had because we commissioned works to her and we bought works from her in the past. So together, I think it's almost like 300 original paintings. But with it also came an enormous archive. So Leone was very interested in everything that had to do with cultural heritage here. So the the people, the skills, the women doing the laundry, the traditions, the men removing the cork from the trees, all these moments where men gather, where women gather and gossip and talk. And she made so many pictures of that, using those pictures also to create her paintings. But this archive is endless, and it doesn't only gives us insight in the way she was working and how she captured the light or compositions, how she was, what her eye was, how she looked at people. But it also is a very precious, let's say, archive of what how people were living here. And this is a thing that is disappearing. Uh, so not so many women are doing the laundry in the fontes here anymore. But Leone captured them all. And if I look at those paintings and when I speak to people here, they say, "Oh, that was my aunt, that was my grandmother, that was my mother." And they probably more and more have their washing machines at home now. So it's a world that is disappearing, but that is really captured by her pictures and not only by her paintings. So I really want to do something with that archive and also discover how her artworks were created, what was her eye for it? How did she approach the topic? And she would make pictures of all sides and then decide that she would do the composition from one picture and the colors from another, and she would change people. By studying her art and her photo archive, I will have a better knowledge of how she really created her art. So that's very valuable. So I inherited all these things. So I have a full office with her heritage, and we had the shop that, of course, she started with the reproductions and the gisles. That was also a method of reproducing that she invented and was very successful in selling in the shop. And we had her the 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 easel with the last work she was painting on. It was a landscape with cork trees. It's still there, and we wanted to keep it intact in the castle in Marvau. And so her blouse hangs there, her brushes are there, her paint is there. You can see the painting she was working on. The light is on the painting. And all these things make you think that she just went for a cup of coffee and that she can return every moment. So, together with the big introduction panel that gives in Spanish, Portuguese, and English the story of her life and her art, it really brings together what we wanted to keep, because she wanted her life and art to stay alive, or her work and art to stay alive. And yeah, with the museum and shop, this is what we can do. And as you know, in Portugal, everything needs to be very transparent and legally okay. So an associação seemed the best option for this. And it took me 1.5 years to get all the paperwork done. But we did it, and yes, we were able to open last week.
Okay. So did I understood well? She got pictures and then she painted, not observing directly the landscape or people.
Yes, she was not an plein air. So that's the name in French, plein air. The Impressionists already used that. So they would sit outside, and in the 19th century, that started because they invented the tube with paint. So it gave them the opportunity to sit outside and work instead of only in the studio. Leone had another approach. She would walk with her dog Kitty every morning. She would be up very early, like 6 o'clock. She would see the sun come up, and she would just observe the light, the landscape, the people getting awake, going to work, standing in the fields, whatever. And she would take pictures. She would capture those moments, or sometimes she would not even go with a camera. She would just do it by eye. And then she would go to her studio in Marvau, in the Castelo, and she would start painting.
Does she have also paintings from movies and films?
Yes, there was a period a few years ago. She called me every week, or we had conversations every week, and she would update me on what she was doing. And there was a period where she lost her inspiration, and she was a really a professional artist working every day of her life since she was very young. I also have juvenile drawings in the archive, so drawings she made when she was a child. But I think when she was 18 or 19 years old, she started drawing, but really every day. And I've never known Leon other than working day by day by day. Leone really loved a party, and she loved to drink a glass of wine, or more than one. But even if she would go all the way in an evening. The other day, she would go up early and make her observations, look at the light, and go to the studio and paint. She didn't miss many days. So she was an artist, pur sang. Yeah.
With a lot of discipline.
A lot of discipline. Yes.
To be able to do that every day.
Yeah.
So, and I heard you were thinking about doing an artistic residence.
Mm-hmm.
How will it work?
Okay, so the vision and the mission and the vision of the Associação is like twofold. One part is to keep the legacy of Leone alive, and that's what we are doing at the moment, because of course that was the priority. But the other part is that we want to use the legacy of Leone to make to make her life and her art worthwhile for a young generation of artists, so that they can also come here and inspire themselves on the Alto Alentejo and capture the light, capture the materials, be enchanted by the whole region and transform it into art in whatever possible way. And so, Artist in Residency is one of the programs that we want to establish. But we also want to do we want to make exhibitions. So we have two big exhibitions in preparation. One of Leone. We do that in collaboration with the municipality of Marvão. It's in the customs building near the border with Spain.
Oh, okay.
The one that is restored, the one from the 70s.
Mm-hmm.
So we will open that on Leon's birthday, 26th of May, and it will stay there for a few months. It will be a sort of overview of her oeuvre. We will have around 90 paintings of her there. But yes, it's Leon, but it's also other artists. So we had a meeting with FIM, the classical music festival of Marvão. They have their 10th year anniversary this year. And I already did an exhibition with them 2 years ago of Leon's work when she just passed away. And this year we will do an exhibition with a very famous Dutch photographer. Her name is Patricia Steur. She also happens to have a house here in near Marvão, and she was a good friend of Leon. And yes, we are going to do a very cool project here, and I'm happy to come back to talk to you about the content. But it's a fantastic topic that is very near to the hearts of the people of Marvão and its environment. So I cannot unveil more because we still are negotiating about it, and I need to find a sponsor for it. But when I have, then I definitely want to come back here and tell you about it.
Okay. I thank you in advance for that. So you are keeping your promise. And what can you tell to the youth that live here in Castelo de Vide? And what's the secret of living here? And why do you live here? Why did you choose Castelo de Vide to live?
Well, it was not per se Castelo de Vide because it was just a place nearby our farmhouse in Fonte Salgueira de Cima. It's a ruin, so it's a well-known story here. A house that is not ready to live in, and it was difficult for us in those days to get a license to build and to find ourselves a contractor. And so time moved on, but we still didn't have a roof above our head. So we decided to look for a house that we could rent and in the meanwhile rebuild the house. But there was not so much for rent. So then there was this house for sale here in Castelo de Vide, and it was exactly the house that we were looking for. It's a house from 1509. The basement, so the fundament is from that period of time, 16th century. You can still see it on old drawings for that King Dom Manuel had to make for to sort of you know sort of archive his land and his possessions. So he made little drawings of every little village. And the church there, the Malta church, the São João Batista, is on it, and there are a few houses opposite it, and one of one of it is our house. Um, so it has this fantastic history. Castelo de Vide is a very pleasant village to live in. But it could also have been Marvau or somewhere else. And the people are, as I said, the people are so warm and welcoming. And I got so much cooperation from municipalities. The municipality from Castelo de Vide was very welcoming and very cooperative. Marvau was fantastic and still is fantastic. They gave me the studio where Leone worked to transform it into a little museum in the Castello. And so we can use it. I also have an office in Celtex, the old shoe factory in Santo Antonio das Areiras. It's a beautiful building from the 40s, restored, and I work there on top of the archive of the Marvau archive, let's say. It's a very safe, dry, warm place, where it's very convenient for the things that I need to maintain and need to capture. I also created an art library under the roof of Celtex. And that's, I told you the story about my teacher, French, who gave me the first art book ever to read when I was 14. And it changed my life. It was really life transforming. And that's why I think my library, it's all the books that I gathered during my life and my careers in Holland and in Abu Dhabi. It has many languages. It's English, Arabic, French, Dutch, German, Portuguese, all sort of languages. And I think I'm able to inspire young people here who have a dream of going into arts or into design or into architecture or photography or even literature or poetry. It's all there. And I hope to be in the same position as my teacher French. And even if I can inspire only one young person to follow an art career, then I will be very happy.
That's very nice to know. How can we visit Celtex and have an experience with your books?
Yeah, that's a good question. Well, I don't have a librarian, so I have a museum and a shop to run in the Castello, and in Sant Antonio, I have my office to study the archives of Leon. But of course, I also need to go to the printer. I need to to print the merchandise for the shop. I need to make exhibitions, have meetings here and there. So I'm running around here. So I unfortunately I cannot sit there as a librarian and give books for loan to other people. But I have a desk there, so I want to have in the future. I have one intern now, but I would like to have more interns, preferably young people who are interested in art or in the museum business or the art shop business, or who want to learn more about archiving or collection database topics. There's a lot to offer, and so they can sit in this very inspirational library of mine. And let's see. Maybe I hope that maybe I can find a sponsor. Maybe we can have someone from this area to work in the library and make it a professional place where people can come and study and read.
Oh, that's great. So you are looking for someone who really wants to work in the library with your books.
Yes, but then of course we need to be able to pay these people.
Yes.
So we have an intern now in the shop in the museum.
Hmm.
She's there five days a week, and of course the association needs to pay her properly. And but we have an income because we also have a shop there. So we hope that that will balance each other out. But for us, it's also very important in our mission. We say that we want um, to transfer our knowledge and give people a perspective on a career in tourism or in a museum or in a shop, and they can learn these skills with us. And if we can pay them, then that's the best way to move forward, because then we can really do something back to the community here.
That's great. I have this doubt. What will we say to the young people that abandon this region?
Ah, yes. Well, sometimes I had a fantastic experience during the opening of the museum. There were three ladies from this area, a grandmother, a mother, and a daughter. The daughter was, I think, around 19 years old. She was a very, very intelligent, sharp, young woman. And I had a conversation with her mother, who was into tourism, and she listened. And I told the mother that it was so important that we create a good environment here for young people, because it's so rich here. There are so many fantastic, also old skills, that like working with cork, with azulejos, where Dutch designers are. I'm sure that if we invite them here, they will get totally crazy of the quality and the beauty of these productions, the textiles you make here. It's also so fantastic. And I don't get it, as but maybe I'm very Dutch in in that way. I don't get it why there is not a very blooming design and art world over here, a world where people can make a living, where are really professional, jobs and initiatives, and Porto Alegre should grab those opportunities. They could be a fantastic city for designers and attract cool people who all want to live in those beautiful houses that are collapsing, and rebuild them and renovate them. And they would bring fantastic little bars and shops and other enterprises, and it would create such a fantastic. It's a little bit like what happened in Antwerp like 30 years ago. It was a poor city. No one wanted to live there. And then artists started to discover, and designers started to discover Antwerp. And within 10 years, the city was being restored. You had these beautiful restaurants and little initiatives. People with an idea about design, they would just go there, open a shop, and go ahead. And with that, you will get the academy. So Antwerp got an academy for fashion, got an academy for design. Here we have fantastic talents. So the designer for the Associação is Eduardo Salvador. He used to work in Lisbon. He came here with his family because he knew this place. He is from here, and he knew it was a better way of living here. And I'm so grateful that I have him in my environment, because he made the logo. He also made Leone's logos, by the way. So he knows her work. He knows exactly what the Alentejo is about. he has this transformative talent of taking something old and transforming it into something very cool and new. And we have ideas about the workshops we want to do with art students and design students. And he could make school. So when we have this buzz here, when we have this lively design and art environment, and people really start being here or coming back, because that's also an opportunity. They can go anywhere in the world, but they can come back. And then we can really create something very powerful and very fantastic. So I was telling this to this lady who is in tourism, and her daughter was just listening, and they bought a few Gislets from Leone, and they left. And then the girl came back, and she said, "Can you please explain to me one more time why you are here, because I don't really get it." And I said, "Well, I understand that you don't get it because you're young. You want to leave this place, you want to fly out, you want to discover the world, and that's all fine. But you take something very beautiful with you, and you will remember my words later in life. There will come a moment that you really long for this area again, and there that you maybe want to make have a family here, or live in a house here, live in nature, and with all the things that you don't appreciate now, but you will appreciate them later in life. And then you will come back with everything you learned and all your skills that you learned somewhere else, and you will want to make them appropriate for here, and because you want to make a living here. And what I did, why I am here, is exactly the same reason as why you want to be here within 10 or 20 years, because it's the most beautiful natural park. It has the most amazing people, food, wine, circumstances. Life is pure, simple, and everything you desire. So there is nothing here that I don't find. Everything that I wanted in life is here on my doorstep. And I hope she will she will think about this when she decides within 10, 20 years where she wants to settle herself.
Great. It's you have a lot of amazing stories. So I thank you for being here,
Thank you for having me.
and you are already invited for the next talk when you have your other exposition and project together, so you can come and talk about it to us. So welcome and see you next time.
With pleasure, with pleasure. Thank you.
Noopy Talks.